You're listening to Bark and Wag's 15-Minute Vet Talk. Each week, your host, Polly Requa, interviews veterinarians and individuals in the pet industry from across the nation answering pet questions. Bark and Wag podcast is produced weekly for your enjoyment, and show notes can be found at barkandwag.com under the podcast tab. That's BARKNWAG.com. Please remember to subscribe to Bark and Wag 15-Minute Vet Talk.
Thank you for listening to Bark and Wag 15-Minute Vet Talk. Bark and Wag is dedicated to protecting our dogs through advocacy, education, and supporting like-minded dog lovers by selling custom pet products. Bark and Wag is excited to announce our new partnership with a Colorado hemp farm to produce a line of CBD products for your pets. Bark and Wag has CBD pet tincture available in 300, 750, 1200, and 2400 milligrams. Bark and Wag CBD is pet safe, no THC, it's made in the USA, and is CO2 extracted. Please check out Bark and Wag's website, barkandwag.com. That is BARK, to see our line of CBD and awesome merchandise. We love pooch ideas for podcasts and merchandise, so anytime send an email to Polly at barkandwag.com with your suggestions.
Welcome to Bark and Wag 15-Minute Vet Talk. I'm your host, Polly Requa. Today we're talking to Carol Novello, board member at CUDDLY Inc., founder and author at Mutual Rescue. Now, I'm sure you're asking, what is Mutual Rescue? It is an organization that shares compelling true stories that demonstrates when people adopt animals, their own lives can be dramatically transformed in positive and often unexpected ways. Wowza. Welcome, Carol. It's great to have you on the show.
Thanks so much for having me. It's a delight to be here.
Well, please tell us, what is Mutual Rescue? Where are they located? How did you get started with it? Do you help all animals? We want to learn more.
Mutual Rescue was created because I wanted to change the conversation from people or animals to people and animals. So I was president of Humane Society Silicon Valley for almost a decade. And during that time, people would sometimes ask me why I was helping animals when I could be helping people. And I thought that was a very curious comment because I knew firsthand, not only from my own life, but also from all of the people that were adopting animals from us, just how transformative it could be to welcome a rescue animal into your home. And one of the things that I learned is that of the $449 billion that Americans give to charity, only 3% goes to animal and environmental causes combined. And what I realized is that somehow people think that when they give to animals, they're taking away from people. And what I wanted to do was really illustrate for people at a very visceral level that when you're helping animals, you're also helping people, because those animals coming into human lives are creating profound changes at the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual levels.
And so where are you located?
So Mutual Rescue is a national initiative of Humane Society Silicon Valley, which is located in Milpitas, California. But our mission is actually, as I mentioned, national in scope. And so the films that we are creating, they are stories that we're telling about rescue animals that come from organizations all across the country, with the idea that a story that we might be sharing from an organization in Illinois, that same type of thing is happening in another shelter in, say, Texas. And so the idea is that we've created these films that are really compelling, that rescues and shelters, regardless of where they're located, they can use them to help illustrate this idea that it's people and animals.
And all animals?
We're primarily focused on companion animals, and that, for the most part, just because of the makeup of the United States, is
Sure.
Cats and dogs. But that being said, in the book that I wrote, Mutual Rescue, How Adopting a Homeless Animal Can Save You Too, there's a chapter that talks about other kinds of animals, horses, pigs. It's amazing the kind of connection that we can have with animals that we rescue and how they can transform our lives. So, well, yes, we're predominantly focused on cats and dogs. We do take the opportunity to tell stories that are compelling from other species as well.
My children and I want to adopt a pig.
Well, it's really amazing. There's a wonderful story that I talk about in the book about a woman who runs a pig rescue. And it's very sad because people just don't know, they don't really understand, when you get a little piglet, how big the pig is going to get. And there was one story that she talks about a pig that she ended up rescuing where a family was getting divorced and they brought the pig to her rescue. And literally the pig cried like real tears for like 2 weeks after the pig was dropped off. So they're very emotional animals, very in tune with human emotion. And it's very compelling stories.
Oh, so tell us about your book.
Yes, so Mutual Rescue, How Adopting a Homeless Animal Can Save You Too, came out of the fact that our short films were so successful. So our very first short film was called Eric and Petey. It was released in 2016, and we were just blown away by the response. It has, since that time, been viewed more than 100 million times across the globe on various social media platforms. But it really took off when SF Gate posted it on its Facebook page. And that one post alone had 35 million views, 200,000 shares, and 50,000 comments. And that led to us attracting more funders that made it possible for us to release and create more films. So the other films, we've released another 11 since then, have collectively been viewed 53 million times. And that led to the opportunity for a publishing deal to create the book. And what's unique about the book is that it not only includes lots of stories, which is the heart component, but it also includes a lot of science. So it's the latest academic research. So that's the head piece. And it really brings together the heart and the head in a way that validates in data what you're actually experiencing as an individual who has welcomed a rescue animal into your home.
And tell us about the story about Petey.
So it's the story of Eric O'Gray and Petey. And Eric was a middle-aged, obese gentleman. He was over 300 pounds. And he was on an airplane, and the airplane was delayed because they didn't have a seatbelt extender that was big enough to fit him. And the gentleman sitting next to him said, "I'm going to miss my connection because you're too fat." And it was such a devastating moment for Eric that he really realized he needed to do something to change his life. And he went to a naturopathic doctor, and that doctor recommended to him that he adopt a shelter dog and walk that dog for a half an hour every day. And so he did indeed do that. He came in and asked for an obese middle-aged dog so they would have something in common. And he started walking Petey a half an hour every day and went on to lose 140 pounds. Petey lost 25 pounds, so they did it together. And it was truly a transformative story. And even more than just the physical impact that it had on Eric was the fact that he really experienced unconditional love for the first time in his life. And he credits Petey with helping him become a kinder, nicer person.
Well, animals do have that tendency.
They do. They can bring out the best in us, and unfortunately, sometimes the worst, which is why there is an animal welfare community out there that is there to help save animals and get them rehomed and take care of them if that's needed.
I actually have seen that video. It was from a while ago. So was that through the Humane Society that you used to be a part of?
Yes. So as I said, I was president of Humane Society Silicon Valley for almost a decade. And what we did is we launched Mutual Rescue as a national initiative of Humane Society Silicon Valley. So it was released under the Mutual Rescue brand name. And we're still working on Mutual Rescue as a national initiative. I'm still involved as the founder of that. And what we're doing now is we realized there was a real opportunity to, as I said, change the conversation from people or animals to people and animals. And there's 3 pillars to what we're doing to build this brand. The first is continue to tell authentic stories. Again, doing that through short films, through book, through social media, and using that as a way to engage the hearts and minds of the general public. We're then also working with shelters to create collaborative programs where the public can engage with shelters. Our first collaborative effort was Doggy Day Out. And so we worked with shelters all across the country to create a best practices toolkit that would make it easy for shelters to create a Doggy Day Out program if they didn't already have one. And what the program is it enables people to come and take a dog out for an afternoon. So it's great for the person. They get some exercise, some fresh air, some bonding time with the dog. And a dog gets an opportunity to get fresh air, exercise, and some bonding time with a human. And if you go to mutualrescue.org, you can check out the directory that lists shelters that have these programs. Unfortunately, right now with COVID, that's a little bit on the back burner. But we know that when it's safe to do so, those programs will once again be thriving. And we're working on some new programs to drive engagement, again, creating kind of national awareness with an opportunity to drive local impact. And then the third pillar is focused on attracting corporate sponsors so that we can get new money into animal welfare that might not otherwise get to the local level. So a lot of people think that humane societies are actually chapters of the Humane Society of the United States, or an SPCA is a chapter of the ASPCA, and that's actually not the case. Humane Society and SPCA are simply generic terms for an animal welfare organization. So we recently just had a very generous donation from Dutch Bros, which is a regional coffee company on the West Coast, and we were able to do 10 $10,000 grants to shelters within the Mutual Rescue Network. And so we're just excited about that opportunity.
Yeah, that's amazing. It is kind of interesting. My children started a junior, I don't know if you want to call it, but a junior board for the Frisco Animal Shelter. So to kind of be the liaison between the high school and the local shelter.
Oh, terrific. Yeah.
Yep. And so the director would email or text Ellie, who's my oldest, and say, we're short dog walkers. And Ellie would just get on social media through Snapchat and say, hey, they need us on January 24th. And there'd be 10 kids that would show up to walk dogs.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty. Yeah. So it is, the grassroots is great. And that's so nice that you're giving back to the local chapters.
Well, again, they're actually not chapters. They're separate legal entities.
Yeah.
They're not related to this, to the big national organizations. And those organizations are doing good work. It's not about that. It's about the fact that we want to create national awareness and national messaging, but then have the opportunity for the action and the funding and the impact to really happen at the local level. So we're kind of creating a bridge in that regard, because no one shelter could go to a national company and expect that they're going to be able to get donations to just a single small geographic area. Now, they might be able to do it with like a local office, which is great, but then you're not getting the national messaging. So that's what we're working on. And we believe that the messaging that we're creating is really resonating with folks as people have responded to our films. And as we said, we're in the process right now of working on corporate sponsorships so that we can bring even more funds into the sector and make it possible to save more lives.
And so are you working on the laws as well?
We're not an advocacy group.
Okay.
And again, that's something that can easily be done at the national level or through, state associations. So we're not an advocacy group, and we're not working on any legal issues.
Okay, great. And so how do people get a hold of your book?
It's available wherever books are sold, and it's as easy as that.
Great. Well, I will put a link in the show notes on all of your information, as well as where people can purchase the book.
Yeah, and if they want to check out our short films, they can go to mutualrescue.org, where they can also see the directory of Doggy Day Out programs, even though, as I said, most are on hold because of the pandemic. But in anticipation of getting on the other side of that, people should know they can go there to check out if there's a program that's in their area.
Well, thank you for being on the podcast, and we certainly hope that you'll come back.
Well, thank you so much, Polly. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to Bark and Wag's 15-Minute Vet Talk. If you like what you just heard, we hope you'll pass along our web address, www.barkandwag.com, to your friends and other pet owners. Have a pressing question for a veterinarian? Ask your question at barkandwag.com under the podcast tab. This has been a KFR production. Join us next time for another edition of Bark and Wag's 15-Minute Vet Talk.